Times when this place gets kinda empty. Sound of their breath fades with the light. I think about the loveless fascination under the Milky Way tonight.
Solaris is a science fiction novel by Polish author Stanisław Lem from 1961, quite rightly regarded as a masterpiece, and has been adapted in 1968, 1972 and 2002 into movies. The story takes place on the same named planet, which is almost completely covered by a kind of ocean that constantly produces bizarre and multicolored formations on its surface.
Lower the curtain down, Memphis. Lower the curtain down, alright.
Evidence suggests that the ocean is an intelligent being, and the scientists there have studied the planet and its ocean for many decades, mostly in vain.
I got no time for private consultation under the Milky Way tonight.
Boris Nienburg's rather moderately interesting 2-hour Soviet TV movie in 2 parts does without the prehistory of the exploration of the planet with which the original begins. As a result, there is no mention of its strange surface, the events on it or flights to it. It begins with the arrival of psychologist Chris Kelvin at the Solaris research station, where he finds a mentally unstable team, the scientists Snort and Sartorius, and where one of the 3 researchers, his friend Giberian, recently took his own life. Apparently there are also other strangers on the station, so-called visitors. After some initial confusion, he discovers that the ocean has begun to construct seemingly living, deceptively real copies of people from the researchers' memories and make them appear on the station.
Wish I knew what you were looking for. Might have known what you would find.
In doing so, the ocean apparently selects memories that are linked to deep feelings of guilt. And he soon finds himself face to face with his wife, his girlfriend in the novel, Harry, who died 10 years ago and for whose suicide he feels partially to blame. Everyone who lives on the ward has found their own guest and technique for dealing with them, whose injuries heal immediately, become more and more human in the course of their presence, and who are back the next day, for example, as in Harry's case, when they are locked in a space capsule and shot into orbit. In the novel, he doesn't do this immediately, as he still doesn't know about the visitors, but initially thinks he's crazy. Harry soon realizes that she is not the original, tries unsuccessfully to kill herself in the book with liquid oxygen and against Kevin's will, who in the meantime has decided to continue his relationship with her, begins to work with the 2 other scientists on a method to make the replicas disappear, which finally succeeds. And Kelvin decides to stay on the station, while the book ends with his trip to the surface of the planet.
And it's something quite peculiar, something shimmering and white. It leads you here, despite your destination, under the Milky Way tonight.
The Soviet movie production starts with a lengthy exposition set on Earth, in which Kelvin visits his father, who has invited a friend/pilot, which during an earlier Solaris mission believed he had seen human figures on the planet's surface. But as he has no scientific background or evidence, he was met with disbelief. After that, the plot largely sticks to the original, with numerous differences in detail. Not all of the characters in the novel appear, and a lot of the extensive explanations, dialogue and thoughts are missing.
Wish I knew what you were looking for. Might have known what you would find.
And the last scene, in which the psychologist encounters the image of his father, is not included in the novel, since there the final destruction of the materialization succeeds, and Kelvin lands on one of the islands and simply looks at the ocean. In this almost 3-hour production with an estimated budget of 1 million rubles, outstanding in every aspect, set, cast, realization, the excellent use of Edward Artemiev's score, which in part consists solely of ambient sounds, and a classical Johann Sebastian Bach piece, every shot looks like a painting. Legendary director Andrei Tarkovsky's partially black and white composition, see also his brilliant masterpiece Stalker from 1979.
And it's something quite peculiar, something that's shimmering and white,
which also wrote film history about central human questions, quite rightly has its absolute cult status, which, like the novel, goes far beyond the genre of science fiction, and, like works of Kubrick and Kurosawa, continues to provoke discussion, analysis and interpretation attempts.
leads you here, despite your destination,
The diverse US version
under the Milky Way tonight.
tells roughly the same story, but this time with Americans. It has partially different names. One of the scientists is called Snow, a female one, Gordon, and a completely different ending. On Kelvin's arrival after the suicide of his colleague, the remaining crew seems extremely frightened and confused due to the manifestations.
Wish I knew what you were looking for. Might have known what you would find.
But really, it's almost entirely about his uninteresting love story with his dead ex-wife, Rhea. The mystery of the copies is only very briefly touched on, and you could have cut out the other two completely and filled the rest also with annoying flashbacks, relationship talk, and Clooney's naked ass banging to make it an hour and a half. In the final 20 minutes after Rhea's disappearance, Kelvin discovers the hidden body of Snow, who must have been killed by his copy some time ago, and he and Gordon, on Fake Snow's advice, flee the station, which is about to crash into the planet. Back on Earth, a wound that heals too quickly reveals that Kelvin didn't get into the capsule after all. But crashed on the planet and can now, as a copy, be with his ex-copy again. The George Clooney Show with a far too good soundtrack by Cliff Martinez, a completely misleading love thriller trailer, and for me absolutely incomprehensible, mostly positive reviews, made with a $47 million budget, only 30 million worldwide back, and was a huge flop. Steven Soderbergh's, see also Kafka, incredibly boring, completely unnecessary, embarrassing Hollywood schmaltzfest, of which all copies should be collected and shot into orbit, was commented on by the author of the novel, which he supposedly wanted to stick to more precisely, sure, and who was already dissatisfied with the previous adaptations for similar reasons. Absolute nonsense, because his story is about the relationship between humans and the non-humanoid intelligence, aka the ocean, and not about any interpersonal love stories. That's why his book was called Solaris, not Love in Space.
You make me feel like I am home again. Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel like I am whole again.
1998, a team of scientists selected on the basis of a treatise for the Pentagon on extraterrestrial first contact by psychologist Dr. Norman tries to find out as much as possible about an UFO on the bottom of the ocean. This turns out to be a US ship from the future, precisely 2043.
You make me feel like I am young again. Whenever I'm alone with you.
But it has been there for 300 years, presumably flown through a black hole. When they find a mysterious spherical object, some begin to behave strangely. A typhoon delays their departure. Unknown apparitions appear and people die.
However
Eventually they realize that entering the orb seems to cause desires to manifest, but also subconscious fears. Sphere got mostly, quite rightly, negative feedback. It didn't even make its $80 million costs back worldwide and was a flop. The stars and some musicians instead of real actors are total miscasts. Dustin Hoffman as Norman always seems visibly unimpressed by what is going on and downright bored. Sharon Stone as Beth doesn't convince for a second as biochemist. And Samuel L. Jackson as the misunderstood meth genius Harry is a joke. The ultra-boring US science fiction underwater psychological thriller by Barry Levinson, see also Disclosure and Wag the Dog, comes across as a watered-down version of Solaris, Alien, The Abyss and Event Horizon. It tells partially the same story as Crichton's excellent, extremely entertaining same-named novel from 1987. In Germany's Sphere, The Minds of Evil. But a few characters are missing and there are numerous differences. In the book, zoologist Beth is a feminist, deeply mistrustful of man, constantly disgruntled minefield, the antagonist later on. However, the movie, complete implausible and unnecessary, pretends she and Norman were formerly married, so is trapped there with his ex-wife. Great. Probably the real horror element here. The much smaller Sphere in the book is not golden and soft, but silver and solid, where a door opens. Math genius / prodigy Harry is actually the youngest of the bunch, around 30, and has a much bigger role and more arguments with the others. Here he just seems odd. The character development is missing, which is why his behavior doesn't make sense. Nor do in the original incomplete copies of his Jules Verne books suddenly appear everywhere. The whole final plays out a bit differently. There's no manifestation teleportation routine. There's also no sphere shooting out of the water at the end for everyone to see, and it's implied that not everyone sticks to the collective argument. Let's forget the whole thing with manifestation spells. Although the viewer has already done so with this adaptation, which drowned at the box office. And even without sphere manifestation superpowers erased directly from the collective memory as if it had never existed.